Hello and welcome back to the Level Cap podcast, where we talk about things related to Level 99 games, but also things not related to Level 99 games.
Oh man, did you think that up all by yourself?
No, it was actually a wonderful submission from one of our fans. I think it's a very accurate slogan.
Yeah, that's absolutely accurate, and how could it not be? Since it includes everything in the known universe. Let's talk more about the desert where I live.
Yeah, Brad, let's talk about
It's getting hot again in the deserts of New Mexico. You know, it's about that time when the aliens come north from Roswell, and and start to abduct shrubberies from our local parks.
Is that what happens? And then what did they use the shrubbery for?
Well, all the green disappears. I think they have some kind of color ray, and they just and all the color goes away during the summertime. Yeah,
that sounds absolutely horrible.
The thing I miss most about the East Coast is the green. But I do love the weather. I love the lack of humidity. It's zero humidity over here. Super nice. And we live on a mountaintop in Albuquerque. It's I think it's the highest elevation city in America.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
It's a fun place.
I'm jealous of no humidity.
Yeah, it's nice. And this place was actually like an artist colony way back in the middle of the 20th century. So a bunch of artists immigrated out here. So there's a really vibrant art scene in Santa Fe and Albuquerque. So if you like hiking and outdoorsy stuff and you like art museums, this is the ideal place to live because we got it all.
Yeah. See, this is the kind of stuff that makes me want to go to America, but at the same time, not want to go to America.
Oh, well, what about this makes you not want to go to America? I can understand the first one, but why does this same stuff also not make you want to?
It's kind of like opening the box of Devastation. You're excited to open it because there's a lot of stuff, but sometimes you don't want to play it because there's too much stuff. It's kind of like that.
I see.
So it's like in America, it's like, there's so many wonderful places to visit. And like how every state is essentially just an entirely different country sometimes. That's how it feels like sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it's like, great, there's a lot of places to go. But then sometimes you're just like, there's too many places to go. So you go nowhere instead.
Yeah, well, we think we will go. We're actually on a trip to go through all the national parks in America, and that's me and my wife's current project is to do road trips all across America and check out all these parks. It's been a lot of fun so far.
How many parks have you gone to, and how many are left?
In addition to the ones we went to before we started, I think we've been to about 6 or 7 of the major parks. Yeah, we're going to Rocky Mountain this weekend, which is up in Colorado, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh, Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, we have Carlsbad Caverns down here, which is amazing, absolutely natural wonder. And then the Grand Canyon, which is actually listed as a natural wonder of the world. And that's
a real one, not a fake one.
Well, Carlsbad, I feel like Carlsbad ought to be, but I don't think it actually is. But maybe I'm wrong. I should look that up real quick and make sure that I'm not. Let's see.
Internet powers go.
Yeah.
So while you're searching that up, let me just ask:
it's not in here.
Sad.
But it ought to be. It's on the short list. Carlsbad Cavern is really incredible.
Carlsbad Cavern. I'll Google it myself.
Yeah.
So all of these national parks you're going to, is Death Valley one of them?
Yeah, Death Valley. I actually went to last month. Death Valley is really cool. It's the lowest point in North America. So it's I think it's 200 feet below sea level or something.
Ooh.
And it's the hottest place on Earth. And we
that's
went
in
at just the right time. Yeah, in temperature.
All right, so it's not filled with clubs and whatever.
No, that's Miami, I think, according to Will Smith. But anyway, but yeah, Death Valley was really cool. They have these big sand dunes, and we got to like climb up on the sand dunes, watch the sunrise. It was gorgeous.
Wow.
So I'm really enjoying these adventures that were going on. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds like an epic quest. Again, like we talked about on the previous podcast, all these places you're going to sound like RPG places. Look,
If only
Death
there was like an
Cavern.
artifact I could pick up after each one of these adventures, that would be ideal. But I have nothing. I have nothing from it except my photo album. So
Maybe that's its own artifact.
I suppose so.
All right. Okay. So, Brad's RPG adventures aside, by the way, somebody needs to make that game. Brad's RPG adventures aside, welcome back to the Level Cap podcast, where we will have a wonderful docket for all of you, and we promise we won't spend the entire time talking about deserts or valleys.
Dark Souls.
Or Dark Souls. We're so sorry about the Dark Souls binge. But anyway, let's start it off with something very interesting, and it's our Game Club game for this week. Our Game Club game for this week is very topical, yet at the same time very dated, and it's
Persona, the series. We're going to talk about the series because
we
both played different entries, from the series. Well, I've heard that 2 is pretty different from the rest of the series.
Yeah, they did this major shift in Persona 3. A lot of the dating elements weren't in 1 and 2. In fact, 1 and 2 were pretty much like, they were basically Shin Megami Tensei with high schoolers. So, yeah. So,
yeah, and so 3 was the start of the real Persona series, I suppose.
Yeah, of the, the modern Persona series. It's like when you say Persona and you think all of the elements, like the tarot cards and all of the dating whatever features,
and the daily life simulations, and
yeah, that's all in 3. Starts in 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's actually like 25 or 30 Shin Megami Tensei games. That Persona is a sub-series of this larger series called Shin Megami Tensei, for those who don't know. There's a similar theme to all these games, which is that you're fighting through this warped kind of psychological hellscape, and there are these various demons that are manifestations of the human soul, and you can capture them and use them to fight for you. And in the classic Shin Megami games, your whole party is just four different demons that you've picked up.
So it's kind of like like your daddy's Pokemon. It's kind of like Pokemon.
Yeah, it's a lot like Pokemon. Although certainly not as a lot darker than Pokemon, right?
Oh yeah, your big daddy's Pokemon.
Yeah. But yeah, what else? I think those are the main staples of the series. And Persona really kind of is the first game to bring it to the modern world, I suppose. So that like you come out of this dreamscape and you can live a normal life and then go back in. Whereas in the other games, the world kind of ends at the beginning of the game and breaks down into something else.
Yeah. It kind of like, that's what it causes the game to turn into, it causes the entire landscape to become a dungeon, or whatever hellscape it is. Fun fact, in case you guys didn't know that, so the Persona 3, Persona 4, and subsequently Persona 5, they all kind of take place in the same year that the actual game was released in. So like, Persona 3 takes place in around like 2000s, 2005s. And like Persona 4 is like 2010s, right?
Persona 5 starts on April 3rd, and that's actually the date that it released on in America.
Oh, really?
So so you could buy it and play it. If you bought it on April 3rd, you could play it one day of the game per day, and play it that way.
That's actually pretty cool.
I couldn't do that. I am too engrossed in it. I'm like 60 hours in already.
Brad, what? But... Okay.
It's good. It's good. You should buy it.
Man, I'm gonna get it. I promise. But
you absolutely got to play this game. It's a masterpiece.
Most Persona games are soundtrack alone. But the fun fact I was saying is that chronologically speaking, Personas 1 and 2 actually happen after 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at least Persona 1 does. I'm not sure about Persona 2, but I'm almost sure that Persona 1 is chronologically the last game.
Okay. I have not. I've not had played 1 and 2. I know of 2 and kind of the basics of it.
Oh, okay.
But I
Yeah,
don't know. A lot about it.
they're very different games. A lot of the concepts in Persona 3 aren't there. The dating sim parts, all of the entire human conflict struggle, like the social links.
Mm-hmm.
So look, let's be honest here. When we're talking about Persona games, at the end of it all, as an actual RPG, like in the sense that like Final Fantasy is an RPG, it's mediocre at best. Like it's not nothing to write home about. What makes Persona games is almost everything else outside the combat system. What makes it is the characters, the design, the story, the mystery, the human struggle that you see in all of the social links. Like that's what makes the game.
Well, at the same time, all those things are validated by the combat simulator. So like the combat is lightweight and it's not super deep. But everything that you do in real life feeds back into combat. So you always feel the rewards of what you have done in your you always feel the rewards of what you've done in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Or in the battle that you're doing. So so there's a nice unification of this system where you see like oh, I want to get to know this person so that they can power up. So I want to beat the dungeon, and so I want to get to know this person, and then I want to level up my stats so that I can get to know this person better, because you have to have certain stats in order to interact with certain characters. And then you want to do certain daily activities so that you can raise your stats, so that you can meet the characters, so you can get the stuff in the world. But what happens is that the characters that you meet in and of themselves are so interesting that that becomes the end unto itself. Like you're really more interested in what happens in the storyline of my friend, not so much that he gives me this cool persona to fight with afterwards, but the fact that I want to see where his story takes me. And I think it's really good storytelling and really good game design that you hook the player in with a mechanical reward, but by the end of that ordeal, the thematic reward is what they really take away from it. And that's because that's what people will remember. They're not going to remember that they got a super powerful +8 persona. They're going to remember that their friend managed to become a pop idol, or managed to break away from their abusive parent, or managed to finally pull themselves out of their depression struggle, or whatever people are dealing with. Like, I think that is the real strength of Persona.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like, Persona is such a good game. I mean, what really, again, like you said, it's like the thing that makes it amazing is just the characters, dude. Like,
it becomes an end unto itself to see what the characters are doing. I think it's good in board games too, though. You kind of get that. Like, you start off with a mechanical idea, like, I have this character. I want to, get these 2 or 3 things so that I can really do, this win in combat or win in the mechanical part of the game. But then you building building the character thematically becomes the end unto itself. Like, that's what you remember about the game is, that you were able to beat the boss in this final confrontation because you did this weird build, or because you stepped outside the box, or whatever else. The character becomes real to you through your struggle.
Yeah, I understand that feeling, because oftentimes when you when I play Millennium Blades, or when I play Exceed, or when I play BattleCon, it's less of a, when you relay the story back to your friends of how you played this game, you don't go like, oh, I played Clockwork Shot on this beat and then I dashed on this beat. But most of the time you start with something along the lines of like, I used a robot to punch a girl and her panda. Something along those lines.
That sounds terrible as a game premise. It's like, but
Girl Panda
I guess.
Punch Simulator. Make it now.
What the hell? Girl Panda Punch Simulator.
Don't actually punch pandas or girls. That is not good. We do not endorse that. That's terrible. But okay, maybe that was the wrong example. But you get what I mean.
that was bad. That was just that was
awful.
weird. Aside from being weird, it was bad.
Let's cut it. Let's cut it out of the podcast. I think we should just stop. We should stop recording the podcast now.
Oh, okay. Anyway. Well, the important thing is that all your objectives do feed back into your core gameplay, because if they don't, then the players won't understand why to do any of them. And it's the same in Persona. Like you get interested in the character, but you first are interested in powering up your personas. And so when Igor says like, oh, you can go and talk to people and then your personas get stronger, you're like, cool, I'm going to go do that because it's easy. It's an easier way to get stronger than grinding. And so you go out in the real world and you start talking to people. Then you become invested in the people themselves and not necessarily in the reward they're giving you. And I think that's where the story really comes to life. Is because you have the struggle, but you stop being interested in that and you start being interested in the characters instead. I think the big innovation in 5 is the confident powers. So with the confidence, which are your social links, as you level them up, you don't just get better personas, you actually get new abilities in the dungeons. And so like the shogi player teaches you like a bunch of different tactical moves, and the gun gamer teaches you how to use your guns in new ways that you didn't previously know. And
That's
like
awesome.
the politician, if you go and talk to him, he teaches you how to do like public speaking, rhetoric, so you can negotiate with the monsters better.
Okay.
So they give you new intermediate abilities, and that's a really big innovation system that I think is the biggest new thing in Persona 5.
And just makes me want to play it more. How dare you, Brad? That's $60 down the drain for me.
Yeah, you should get the premium edition. It's really nice.
Oh, is it the one with the Morgana plush? And
yeah,
like,
it's got the Morgana plush, and it's got the bag from their school, and you get the art book, which is pretty stellar.
Yeah, my girlfriend has it. It's amazing.
They brought back Hold Up, or not Hold Up. They brought back Negotiation.
Yeah.
And it's now called Hold Up because you guys are thieves, and so when you knock all the enemies down, you surround them and and pull your weapons on them, and you start negotiating. But it's like a hostage negotiation.
Oh, that's so cool.
And and they'll beg you to let them go, and you can ask for like money or items or or favor, or to like have them join your party. But it's a lot less. It's a lot lighter than the regular Persona games, or not, but in the regular Shin Megami Tensei. Because like in the Shin Megami, you really got to like haggle with the monsters. You don't have the upper hand when you talk to them. So it's just like, oh, there's a monster on the other side of the field. Let me go over and talk to them. And if you ask for money or something, they'll be like, oh well, what's in it for me? And they'll try and talk to you. But in this one, they're all on the ground. You've got your guns pointed at them, and so you're like, give me money. And they're like, here, is this enough? Can I go? And you can say, like, nope, keep it coming until they either get mad and fight back, or they decide to run away of their own volition.
That's awesome. I didn't know that was how the negotiations went in 5.
Yeah. The negotiations are always like what's the word? You always have the upper hand in the negotiations, which is very different than the other Shin Megami games.
All right. So that pretty much ends it for this edition of the Game Club. I hope you guys liked us talking about Persona 5, Persona 4, Persona 3, Persona 2, Persona 1, Persona 0. Brad, would you recommend this game series to everyone?
Oh, absolutely. They're all pretty similar, so there's no point in starting with anything but the best one. So start with Persona 5. If you absolutely love it, you can go back and do 4, and if you absolutely love that, you can do 3. But 5... like, if you play 5, you'll get everything out of the series. You can just watch the anime for 4, and you'll get the whole story. And then you can play the fighting game, and you'll see pretty much what 3 and 4 and 3 are about. So,
yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, 3 had a really good story. I felt like 3's story was stronger than 4's, but 5 is still absolutely
the best one,
unabashedly the best in the series.
Oh.
Yeah.
Personally speaking, I think 4's characters are better than 3's. Specific characters, like
the characters are certainly stronger in 4. Just the overarching storyline in 3
is way better than 3. Yeah,
and 3 also get there's a trend in video games to get less dark as you go along. So like 2 is really dark, and 3 is also really dark, but 4 is a little more lighthearted, and 5 is a lot more lighthearted.
But you have to understand that we're saying that 4 is a lot more lighthearted when the main premise is about the serial killer, and 5 is
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
like
so for us to say that 4 is pretty lighthearted, Persona 1, 2, and 3 had to be so dark for us to say that 4 is pretty lighthearted.
they're pretty edgy. Yeah.
Pretty edgy, pretty edgy. All right. So if you guys want us to talk about some other games for Game Club, you want to recommend a game to us to play, please do tell us in the comments section down below, and we will get to that. But let's move on to our next segment for this podcast, and it's of course the ever here character of the week. And our character of the week this week is a very special character because it's
Eugenia from Seventh Cross.
ooh.
So we're gonna be talking about our resident mage in the world of Seventh Cross. Where to start on Eugenia? So Eugenia is a changeling. Changeling slash fae slash elven, whatever you want to call it. She was switched at birth for someone else. And led a troubled life because she never fully comprehended like human emotion. So the Fae in this world are much more like malicious type of creature, and so Eugenia lived her whole life through boarding schools and and in and out of delinquency because she never really understood human empathy. Anyway, she grows up and she becomes involved in magic, and she has a talent for this, and ends up becoming part of the church because they see the potential in her, and they know what she really is. Anyway, that's as with all the Seventh Cross characters, the stories are still kind of developing for them, and so I can't tell you where all this leads. Except that she ends up becoming an exorcist that is investigating these different supernatural disturbances. But because she herself is tied to other worlds, she's already what's the word, like partly corrupted with these same forces.
Oh, so she's already kind of a monster by default.
Yeah, and so the Fey world in Seventh Cross is kind of modeled after like the Alice in Wonderland world. So we see the monstrous form on her other card, the Cheshire Cat, and it's unclear if that's her true nature or if it's some other force in the world that comes to her aid. So we'll see more about it in the actual Seventh Cross game when we get to her full backstory. But yeah.
So this character looks awesome. Like, I'll just straight up say it. I like the way this character is designed. I like her theme. I didn't know she was a mage. Like, I knew she used magic, but I didn't know she was like the archetypal mage for this set. So there you go. But because I thought that was more like Jeanette.
Yeah, well, Jeanette is your traditional witch type character. Eugenia is more of the like sorceress type of character, and she has a bunch of like her primary spell type is mind magic. So she has she has like an acid arrow, she has like color sprays, she has things to like that will manipulate people's minds. Is the kind of magic she's really good at. And that follows along with this whole descent into madness theme. Because the elves are creatures of madness, and the main thing that's not human about them is the lack of human emotion and empathy. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring out in Eugenia, is that superficially she looks very human, but it's the actual human qualities lacking in her psyche that make her monstrous.
Yeah. So I like this concept of how the concept of a monster is not just physical, because a lot of your other characters in Seventh Cross Exceed, their monstrous form still looks human. Like I think Zolt's monster form
is a big one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looks exactly the same as regular Zolt, except he has a red eye.
Yeah. And so some of the archetypes are the human monsters, like the psycho killer character, which would be like Zolt, or like Well, anyway, I don't get too deep into it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
or some characters like Galdred are probably evil to start out with,
so
or are partially monstrous to start out with, like Yaquis.
oh yeah, that's true because he looks kind of dragon-like even as normal. But we'll bringing it back to Eugenia. You were talking about how she uses mind magic and how she, kind of causes this descent into madness thing. I really like that because now her unique ability and mechanics make sense to me because I don't know this
Yeah,
backstory.
she's a very discard focused character and likes to take cards out of your hand. And as she does, as your hand size gets smaller, she gets more powerful. So the closer your opponent is to madness, the stronger Eugenia becomes. And I think it's played out pretty well in her kit as well.
Yeah, I really, really like it. And I want to emphasize how interesting Eugenia's two sides are, because one side is about the discarding, and then the other side is about when your opponent discards stuff, you get to use it for yourself. And that's pretty awesome. You played that on stream with Crit Camp once, and it was fun to see how that block that Lyle stole ended up being so important because that's
Oh yeah,
that's what one of
it really made the difference.
yeah, it was such a it's like such a hype moment. Like I didn't think I could feel hyped for a board game, but I did, and so there it goes. Yeah.
Well, it was it's a really cool kid, and she's a fun character to play. I enjoyed her quite a lot, and of course the aesthetics are super cool.
Oh yeah.
Like Alucard did a great job with the art, and with that Cheshire Cat character especially, a lot of fun.
All right. So that pretty much does it for our character of this week. If you guys liked Eugenia, if you want to talk about any other characters, you want to learn more about our other characters from any game, Millennium Blade, Spatial Tactics, Argent, whatever, do tell us in the comment section down below and we will get to that as soon as we can. Moving on to our next segment, 99 questions, which aren't 99 questions, but given this episode, which is episode 16, we're reaching 3 times 16. You carry the one. Brad, math, help, please.
What, 16 times 3? It'd be 48.
Oh, see? Oh, this is why you're the boss. Math skills.
I don't know about that. That's just, my programmer's background coming in.
But, wait, but I'm 4th year in computer science.
Well, yeah, but I'm graduated in computer science. See, this is what you still have to learn, Marco. This is the thing that's holding you back from your full degree. Is 16 times 3. Yeah, basic arithmetic. Okay, let's just move on. Let's
ask some questions that the community asked. And here's something really interesting because somebody was listening to our podcast and asked some questions because in episode 10 we started talking about the Underland and they were wondering about some stuff. Are you ready to answer some questions about the Underland?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, how exactly did Hekech cross from the Dark World to the Prime World? How does that work?
Okay, so the dimensional barriers in the world are not totally what's the word? Completely sound, if you will. People can drop through between different worlds, and it's not there's not really any regular way to it. There is this like giant breach in Jeffries, which is a permanent dimensional portal, but sometimes in like the old places of the world, or based on like old magic or whatever, people can fall through between the dimensions. So it's very likely that Hekech was out exploring one day or something, and he went into a cave, and he fell in a pool of water, and he wound up in another world. Like that kind of traditional fantasy type stuff is how a lot of otherworldly characters end up in Indians. And if that makes him sound like the protagonist of his own adventure, we kind of think of every character as the protagonist of their own adventure, too.
That should be a new podcast slogan. Level Cap podcast, where you're the protagonist of your own
You're the
adventure.
Protagonist. I like it.
I like that. So at the end, your answer is basically magic.
Well, not so much, but not a rare but not uncommon magic, I guess is the way to say it. Like,
wait, Brad, a rare but not uncommon.
Yeah, that's the.
Is it a mythic?
You know what? It's it's let's just move on. Yes, it's shiny and mythic. No, but like there are dimensional rifts, especially in the older dimensions. Like the Minus world is completely falling apart, and so doppelgangers end up all over the place.
All right.
Like
all right.
that's one example. So if somebody cast a spell in one day and didn't close it up, or if there was some old artifact or whatever. Yeah, I guess I'm saying magic is how he ended up in the. Yeah,
I love
pretty
how
much.
I love you did this entire aside to try to go like, no, it's not magic, and I'm like, yeah, it's magic.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right,
Next
let's move
question.
on. Speaking of doppelgangers, is evil Hikaru from the Underland? If so, can we hope to see any other doppelgangers in the future? I'm pretty sure he's a doppelganger, though, right?
Yeah. Evil Hikaru is from the Minus world. He is a doppelganger. He's Hikaru's doppelganger, but he's like Bizarro Hikaru, and not like trying to be Hikaru, but trying to be the opposite of Hikaru. So he's like the reverse Flash to Hikaru's Flash, I guess, if Hikaru
Ooh.
was the Flash.
Are we gonna expect any other, evil versions of characters or other doppelgangers?
No. I mean, Evil Hikaru was mainly a riff on Evil Ryu.
I mean,
So
yeah, we all know.
he exists in the realm of canon parody character in the same way that like Voco does.
Are you saying Voco's a joke?
I'd say that Voco, there's some level of parody in Voco's character design. Yes.
Yeah, because he has the best shades, the
Yeah.
shades that believe in you.
Don't let this shock you, but yeah, Voco is somewhat a joke character.
Oh no! What? Really now? Okay, and let's move on to the last question, which I just reading this makes me laugh. If the world of Indians is flat, what would happen if you walked off?
If you walked off, you would probably. Well, actually, no. That's the thing. Nobody has discovered the edge yet, so we don't know.
So there's no. Are you saying the world of Indians has no edge?
I'm just saying it hasn't been discovered yet.
So
there's like a real question of what happens if I fall off the edge. Like that's something that people in the world don't know the answer to. We know there are other continents beyond the sea, but we don't know where the edge of the world is. So that's that's something that is yet to be revealed. And it may be something where the world is endless, or it is like toroidal, or something like that.
That's pretty cool. So
we don't
no
know
answer.
Yet. Yeah.
So there's
there's no known answer. Explore it's not the age of exploration yet.
Oh, so Indians hasn't experienced its boom yet.
Kind of, or all that knowledge was lost with the fall of the dragons.
That's pretty cool. I kind of like that second one more, wherein they actually were a more advanced civilization prior to losing everything in the Dragonic Wars.
Well,
So
the Underlanders were an extremely advanced civilization.
I can only assume because they had all of these like magic gate portal things.
Because they also didn't have this like 500 year or 1,000 year dark age with the rise of the dragons, because they were on the other side of the world
where there were no dragons, and instead
right,
it's dark.
Yeah, well, it's not dark. It's not dark.
Oh wait,
it's just the other side of the world.
I thought the dark world was the one that was above it, though. So I assumed it would be dark.
Well, so here's the thing. Imagine. Let's see. Like in the Philippines, what do you say if you could dig a hole to America? I guess is what you say.
Something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So imagine if America was only reachable by digging a hole, but the hole you had to dig was only about 3 miles deep.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of how the world of Indians is structured.
So it's literally just a coin.
Yeah. So if like terrible forces took over America and you just sealed up the hole in the ground so that Americans couldn't get to the Philippines anymore, then you could have this golden age of technology in the Philippines while America goes to hell.
Because of dragons.
Because of dragons, yeah. And so that's basically what happened in Indians.
Okay. That's so. Okay. I think now it's my turn to go. Like, maybe that example's not exactly the best way to explain this.
This episode is full of bad examples. Don't do this at home, kids.
Yeah, don't. We're not experts on anything.
We're not your role models.
Yeah,
On
we're
the
not.
Level Cap Podcast. Level Cap Podcast. We're not your role models. There's your slogan.
I love it. I love it. Yes. And that pretty much does it for our 99 questions segment, wherein we are slowly approaching 99 questions. And finally, but definitely not the least, is going to be our wonderful News 99 segment. Brad, care to tell us some very interesting level 99 games news, or maybe news that's not level 99 games at all? Whatever, you're the boss.
Well, we do have some cool news. What's the word? Seventh Cross Exceed is finished up, so that's over and done with. The project has ended. If you're listening to this podcast, you can still get stuff in our online store. We have some late pledges posted up, so check those out. Automata Noir is finally been announced. This is a fusion of our classic noir Killer vs. Inspector game with Penny Arcade's Automata, which is sort of a 1920s crime noir robot series, like, kind of retro futurist Fallout 4 type robots.
Yep.
It's really cool. And so that's going to be coming out soon. We also have 2 other games that we want to announce. Cell Swords Olympus is going to be coming out.
Yes.
So that's the standalone sequel to the hit game Cell Swords. And we also have a game called I Can't Even with These Monsters coming out. And this is a game by Daniel Solis. It's a simple, casual yet deep set collection game with monsters. Maybe not set collection is the right way, but like point collection game. And the rule is that your score only counts if it's even. So if you have an odd score, you can't win the game. And so this means that it's very tense up to the very end, because you can meddle with your opponent's scores and knock them off balance and win even if you're way behind.
A single +1 could ruin your entire game.
Yes. So, and you don't have full control over the cards you get to play. Your opponent has some amount of control over what you get to play, and so you're trying to kind of sneak cards past your opponents so that you can get the points you need to get ahead without ruining your score.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
It's a really neat one.
I want to play that game. Also, I think the name's a bit wrong.
Yeah,
because it's I can't even, but the goal is to be even, though.
Yeah, but that's because you're frustrated because you look at the monsters in your hand. You're like, I can't even with these monsters. And you see, that's the.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So is the sequel?
It's really cool. It's really
cool.
The
sequel I Can't Odd?
No. The sequel is I Can't Even with These Supers, and it's got superheroes.
Is that even serious?
Yeah, that's serious. Like, it's already been done.
Oh my god!
We just gotta wait for the sales for monsters to justify printing supers. So go out and buy I Can't Even with Monsters.
Yes, because look, the name itself sells the game. And any other news, or are we done?
Yeah, well, playtesting went really well with 7th Cross, version 17. That was really cool. I'm going to be posting an update on the blog, so you may see it before you see this podcast. But we had a great time playing it yesterday. I got a few issues to iron out with boss fights, and I think we're very close to like the final form, if you will. So about that point in Millennium Blades where the game kind of like we knew what the final game was going to look like, I think that's where we are now with 7th Cross.
So it's almost at its final form.
Yeah, so it's like the form of the game is final, but the actual specifics are still under construction.
So it's ready to fight Goku, is what you're saying.
Maybe it's ready to fight Krillin.
Okay.
That's
that's not saying much yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. All right. And that pretty much does it for this episode of the Level Cap Podcast. I hope all of you guys enjoyed listening to this podcast this week, and I hope you had a wonderful week. Of course, if you guys want to give us any comments, questions, suggestions, give us suggestions for anything in the podcast. You know, what game club game you want, what character of the week you want. You want to give us a slogan? Give us a slogan. You want to tell us, hey, Brad, hey, Marco, you guys are nice. Please do so. If you don't like us, give us valid criticism. Just don't be mean, please. It hurts sometimes. And As of course.
Yeah, that's not what you were saying when you were talking about the punching pandas.
I do not endorse punching animals. I don't want to be. Yeah, I do not.
If we get PETA representatives in our stream.
This is what you get for making Tatsumi soak with Juto.
That's true. She does kind of hold this panda up in front of her face to
block shots.
I like to think he makes a water barrier. He conjures a water barrier.
Oh, he is a water spirit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what happens. That's canon now, and nothing any of you will ever say will ever change that. And of course, this episode has been brought to you by me, your host, Mark Dos Santos, also known as the Mechanic Critic, and with me is my adjective co-host,
Brad Talbot. It's good to have been with you guys. Thanks for listening in.
Thanks for listening in, and we'll see you guys next week.